What's up, everybody? This is Patrick with Denali Racing and Performance. I'm going to talk about our Quick Stage Turbo 400 Spool Assist kit and exactly what it does and how it works in the Turbo 400. We're going to start off with our solenoid here. This is a patent pending design that we utilize a hydroforce solenoid and cartridge here, coil and cartridge. And we have our own unique design and how this works. Now, this is a universal kind of part for what we consider a standard valve body here, a very basic one, a common one, I would say. And also to our Pro kit, which utilizes the same solenoid and utilizes the same manifold we have here, just bolts onto an adapter plate. This adapter plate remote mounts off here onto the parking pawl retention plate. What we're doing is nothing different than what you see in some of the, I guess, faster, more expensive, high-dollar transmissions. And some of the low end. For example, Cone Racing. Cone Racing offers a direct feed. So what we're doing is we're direct feeding the converter. We're bypassing the OEM converter feed in the pump, and we're direct feeding it from the control of our solenoid. Okay. Now, Cone Racing has their own valve body, their own pump half. So your rear pump half, which is what looks like this. What they're doing, okay, and this is what the bigger companies do, Mark, Mickey, and Rossler, for example. What they're doing is they're tapping into the pump here, or the back half of the pump with a hose. However, it's a completely different stator rear pump half. Some versions do look like this, original casting, but it's completely different internally. That's behind this stator tube. Well, that obviously adds difficulty to the project. So we have created a way to do it a little bit differently, and I'm going to explain. Whichever valve body you have, billet valve body, trans brake valve body, manual valve body, in that sense, not an OEM, not a recast, nothing like that. We're going to focus on a stock case, stock pump. Now, the stock style pump can be a recast as well, but it has to have similar variation to your typical 896, 895 pump halves. That is the most common pump assembly for the Turbo 400. You can use an aftermarket case. The Jags white label, the Summit labels, okay, those typical Reed style, I guess, knockoff kind of cases, a Reed case specifically as well. There are other versions out there. If you go into NileRacing.com, you can actually see the part numbers and what you can use. Here we're going to focus again because it really isn't any different than an aftermarket case. But the pump does have to be the specific pump, okay? What we're doing is, regardless of what valve body you have, we are not interfering with any of the general operation of the channeling in these valve bodies, okay? Now, I must state that modifying someone else's product, like I'm asking you to do, could potentially void your warranty or guarantee on that product. With that being said, this is not uncommon to do. Some people tap into their valve body to get specific pressures for each gear or each shift or each line set, whichever they're looking to do. It's not an uncommon practice, okay? It's not that common, but it's not uncommon. It's not unheard of. What we're asking you to do, whether it's our standard kit where it's a direct mount, or where it's the Pro kit, which we are tapping 1/8 inch MPT into the valve body with fittings to then remote locate the solenoid here. All we're asking you to do is drill 2 holes. We're giving you the fixture, we're giving you the instructions, the templates, the drill bits to do so. But again, no matter what valve body you have, it will not interfere with any of the inner workings here, okay? And again, from an understanding standpoint of liability, yes, it could potentially void your warranty. Again, I think I've stated this over multiple platforms. Consult a transmission specialist to have them install this, or somebody who's very knowledgeable in doing this. This is the off-road racing application, so there is always that inherent risk that is on the end user, okay? So just keep that in mind. We'll get those disclaimers out of the way. Whether it's the standard valve body, and I don't have one here, I apologize, or another valve body, okay? Standard being an internal trans brake, a Pro kit being an external trans brake. Your Pro kit here with your remote mounting block here is going to be your pro kit for all your external valve body or external trans brake valve bodies. What we're doing is right here, okay, and I don't have to get that specific, but I just want to understand and explain, okay, this channel right in here is not being used by any manufacturer of an aftermarket billet trans brake valve body, okay? We are tapping into that, so we need to modify this valve body, okay? We need to drill a hole and tap it. Now we're also tapping into the main circuit, okay? We're tapping into the main circuit pre-manual valve. So it's free-flowing circuitry right here. This is your manual circuit here on most valve bodies, and it's going to look pretty similar to this. This is your mainline pressure. We're tapping in all the way up here pre that. Keep in mind, on a stock transmission, Turbo 400, it is picking up to feed the converter right at the stator. That's being done right here in this port. This is the output here that feeds the entire case and transmission with fluid. Okay, it's jumping through a hole that's right underneath it, through that hole there, feeding the torque converter with primary fluid. Okay, we block that off. When we block that off, the front half is now, right here is the block off, the original feed-free converter. Well, we're utilizing this channel, okay, right here. It ends right here. On an 8-bolt case, like you see here, with your fixture plate that we have here, gives you the instruction to drill a hole right through your stator and into your case. That hole comes out into this cavity, which is not being used by any other aftermarket manufacturer of a valve body, okay? So we're taking line pressure, we're sending line pressure to this solenoid, then that pressure now comes to converter feed, which comes back through hoses or through your standard mount, doesn't matter, comes through this hole here, into this cavity, through the hole we drilled, through the case, through the stator. Now it's no different, you see highlighted in blue here, no different than any of the other feed holes. It's very common, there's plenty of material, there's no issue to getting fluid to pass through that. From there, we're going into the groove. Now, depending on what variation or part number pump you have, in our kit, you may have to modify that. I'm not getting into that right now. It is carrying the fluid all the way to your new or the existing converter feed here. All we're doing is changing the flow. It is very simple. Some of the bigger companies, the higher end companies, Mark, Mickey, Rossler, Cone, okay, it's a lot easier for them to have their own back stator half that is a recast where they feed, but again, it's a completely different design. There's a lot more involved into doing that, obviously. This is a DIY simple kit, and it is very basic. All we're doing, again, is taking line pressure to our solenoid, out of the solenoid. Now it's -6 lines, so it's plenty of volume, plenty of flow. None of these holes or passages are less than the original size hole in the stator back half of the pump. That is important because volume, pressure is volume, okay? So how that works in hydraulics, as long as we're not decreasing that, okay, we're not restricting any flow. And I have data to back that up. So it's really no different than the aftermarket companies that have a hose from a very similar solenoid out past the rooster plate, okay, and up to the back of the pump. Zero difference, same size hose. We're just running two because we're pulling line pressure, and then we're feeding converter feed through two hoses instead of one. We're not pulling from here. Again, no difference. So hopefully you understand how that works. GM has done it. Okay, they don't do it anymore. They haven't done it since like 1972. With this is an older 68 pump. If we do have to do it on the newer style 895 front pump, in our kit, you get the tooling to make that groove deeper and expanding the length of that groove. It is no different. The only difference with this style, this part number pump, you have to run our wear plate, our reprogramming plate. which is available at denalracing.com. So hopefully that helps you understand exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it. It is no different than what those other people have done in the higher horsepower companies or higher caliber of transmissions. We just want to do it at a lower end, at a cheaper end, so that you don't have to spend $10,000, $20,000 on a transmission. And you may already have really good components, a really good case, an aftermarket case with good drums and gear sets in there with a stock or recast pump. So again, no different, okay? And again, you assume the liability of drilling out a valve body or whatever you need to do. But I assure you it's common practice. We give you all the instructions and tools to do this so that there is little to no mistakes or failure in doing this yourself. And if you are concerned about doing it yourself, have a transmission shop do it, a local performance transmission company do this. They should have no issue, and we are open with support with email and phone calls if anybody has any questions. Okay? So thank you. This is just an understanding of how this works, and it's just a different way of getting the fluid there at a much cheaper cost than spending big money on a big transmission or buying cones kit where you have to do a little bit more involved in completely tearing down a transmission. So you can see the differences there. Thanks again. My name is Patrick. Please visit denalracing.com. There's a lot of technical information there. You can might be able to help you answer some of your questions.